Most people believe financial success is about income, opportunity, education, or luck. They believe if they had the right job, the right break, or the right amount of money, everything would change. But if this were true, people who earn more would always keep more, and those who receive sudden money would never lose it. Reality shows the opposite again and again. Money does not change people. It reveals how their brain is trained. Financial success is not primarily an external problem. It is an internal one. It is a pattern of thinking, reacting, deciding, and behaving that repeats daily, often without awareness. Until the brain is trained differently, financial outcomes remain unstable, no matter how much money flows in. The brain is the operating system behind every financial decision. Every purchase, every investment, every risk, every avoidance, and every opportunity is filtered through the brain's conditioning. This conditioning was formed long before you ever tried to build wealth. It was shaped by early experiences, family beliefs, emotional associations, and survival patterns. By the time most people think about money, their brain has already decided how to respond to it. This is why two people with the same information make completely different financial choices. One saves, invests, and plans calmly. The other spends, avoids, and reacts emotionally. The difference is not intelligence. It is brain training. The brain's primary job is not to make you wealthy. It is to keep you safe. Safety means predictability, familiarity, and avoiding discomfort. Wealth building requires the opposite. It requires uncertainty, patience, delayed gratification, and emotional regulation. Without retraining, the brain will resist wealth even when you consciously want it. The brain mistakes financial growth for danger. When income increases, spending often increases automatically. When money feels tight, fear increases and thinking narrows. When opportunity appears, hesitation rises. These are not moral failures. They are automatic neural responses designed to protect you from perceived threat. Protection limits expansion. Most people live with a survival-trained brain in a growth-based world. Their nervous system reacts to money as if it were a threat rather than a tool. This creates anxiety avoidance, impulsive spending, and short-term decision-making. Financial anxiety is not about numbers. It is about perception. When the brain is stressed, it prioritizes immediate relief over long-term benefit. This is why people know what they should do financially, but consistently do the opposite. Knowledge cannot override nervous system conditioning. You cannot think your way out of a survival response. Financial success requires a brain that can tolerate uncertainty without panic. It requires the ability to delay reward without feeling deprived. It requires emotional neutrality around gains, losses, and fluctuations. These are trained capacities, not personality traits. Training changes default behavior. Most people try to fix money problems at the surface level. They budget harder, earn more, or chase strategies. These efforts help temporarily but collapse under emotional pressure because the underlying brain patterns remain unchanged. When stress returns, old habits return. Training the brain means changing how it responds to money emotionally. It means rewiring associations so money no longer triggers fear, urgency, or avoidance. It means teaching the brain that long-term planning is safe and delayed gratification is not deprivation. Safety must be redefined. One of the biggest obstacles is that financial mistakes are often emotional, not logical. People spend to feel relief status or control. They avoid investing to avoid fear. They underprice themselves to avoid rejection. These behaviors feel rational in the moment because the brain seeks emotional regulation. Money becomes an emotional coping tool. Until the brain learns healthier regulation, money will continue to be used to manage feelings rather than build stability. This is why financial success is a psychological skill before it is a technical one. Emotion precedes action. Training the brain also means increasing awareness. Most financial behavior happens unconsciously. People rarely pause to notice why they are spending, avoiding, or hesitating. Awareness interrupts automatic patterns and creates choice. Choice is the foundation of change. Another reason financial success is a brain training problem is identity. The brain protects identity fiercely. If you do not see yourself as financially capable, disciplined, or strategic, your brain will sabotage behavior that threatens that identity. Identity sets limits. This is why people self-sabotage when things start going well. The brain pulls them back to what feels familiar, even if familiar is unstable. Training involves expanding identity gradually, so stability becomes normal. Normal determines behavior. Financial success also requires patience. The brain hates patience because patience delays reward. Training teaches the brain that waiting is not loss. Waiting is investment. Investment requires trust. Trust is built through experience, not words. Each time you delay gratification and see positive results, the brain updates its model. Over time, what once felt uncomfortable becomes natural. Repetition rewires response. Another element of training is emotional regulation under pressure. Markets fluctuate, income varies, and unexpected expenses appear. A trained brain remains calm and strategic. An untrained brain panics, reacts, or freezes. Calm preserves clarity. Financial success also depends on focus. The brain trained for distraction chases short-term stimulation. The brain trained for focus stays with long-term goals. Focus must be conditioned intentionally. Attention creates outcomes. Training the brain is not about suppressing fear or forcing discipline. It is about teaching the nervous system that growth is safe. This requires consistency, compassion, and structure. Harshness increases resistance. This book is not about tricks or shortcuts. It is about building a brain that naturally supports financial success. A brain that can plan calmly, decide clearly, and act consistently regardless of emotional noise. When the brain changes, behavior follows. When behavior changes, results compound. You stop reacting to money. You start directing it. Financial success stops feeling stressful and starts feeling strategic. In the next part, you will learn about the hidden mental patterns that block wealth and how unconscious habits silently sabotage financial progress, even in motivated, intelligent people. This is where awareness deepens and real training begins. Most people believe their financial struggles are caused by external limits, not enough income, not enough opportunity, not enough time. But beneath these surface explanations live invisible mental patterns that quietly sabotage progress regardless of circumstances. Until these patterns are exposed and retrained, financial success remains unstable. The most dangerous mental patterns are the ones you do not notice. These patterns operate automatically. They shape how you interpret money, how you react to risk, how you handle pressure, and how you recover from mistakes. Because they feel familiar, they are mistaken for truth. One of the most common blocking patterns is scarcity orientation. Scarcity is not about having little. It is about thinking as if there is never enough. When the brain is locked into scarcity, it becomes hyper-focused on loss. Every decision is filtered through fear of running out. Scarcity thinking narrows attention. When attention narrows, opportunities disappear from view. The brain prioritizes protection over growth. This leads to hoarding, avoiding investment, undercharging, and staying in safe but limiting situations. Even when income increases, scarcity thinking remains because the pattern is internal. Another hidden pattern is emotional urgency. Emotional urgency creates the feeling that financial decisions must be made immediately. Spend now, decide now, act now. This urgency bypasses reflection. The brain seeks relief rather than strategy. Urgency is rarely real. Emotional urgency drives impulsive spending, panic selling, and abandoning long-term plans at the first sign of discomfort. It feels like action, but produces instability. Another powerful blocker is identity mismatch. If your identity does not include being financially capable, disciplined, or strategic, your brain will resist behaviors that threaten that identity. This resistance often shows up as procrastination, self-doubt, or sudden loss of motivation. The brain protects identity more than goals. People may consciously want financial success, but unconsciously fear becoming someone unfamiliar. Success can threaten relationships, routines, and self-image. The brain chooses familiarity over improvement. Another mental pattern is avoidance of discomfort. Wealth building requires discomfort. Learning new skills, negotiating value, delaying gratification, and tolerating uncertainty all activate discomfort. The untrained brain treats discomfort as danger and avoids it. Avoidance feels safe, but keeps you stuck. Many people confuse discomfort with risk. Discomfort is emotional. Risk is contextual. Avoiding discomfort avoids growth even when risk is low. Another hidden blocker is short-term reward bias. The brain evolved to prioritize immediate reward over delayed benefit. This made sense for survival. It works against wealth building. Short-term reward bias favors spending over saving, consumption over investment, and distraction over focus. Delayed gratification must be trained. Another pattern is emotional spending. Many people use money to regulate feelings. Stress, boredom, insecurity, or sadness trigger spending as relief. This relief is temporary. Financial consequences are lasting. Spending becomes coping. Until emotional regulation improves, money will continue to be used as a tool for managing feelings rather than building stability. Another blocker is learned helplessness. After repeated financial setbacks, the brain may conclude that effort does not matter. This belief reduces initiative and risk-taking. People stop trying not because they lack ability, but because their brain expects failure. Expectation shapes effort. Another subtle pattern is comparison fixation. Constant comparison distorts perception. People feel behind even when progressing. This creates anxiety and impulsive decisions aimed at catching up. Comparison replaces strategy with emotion. Another common pattern is all or nothing thinking. People swing between extremes, saving aggressively, then overspending. Motivation bursts, then complete avoidance. This instability prevents compounding. Consistency builds wealth, not intensity. Another blocker is fear of visibility. Wealth creation often requires being seen. Marketing, negotiating, sharing ideas, leading projects. Fear of judgment keeps value hidden and underpaid. Invisibility limits income. Another pattern is information overload. Consuming endless financial advice without action creates the illusion of progress. The brain stays busy, but behavior does not change. Knowledge without execution is avoidance. Another hidden pattern is blame, externalization, blaming systems, markets, or people reduces emotional discomfort, but also removes agency. Agency is required for change. Responsibility restores power. Another blocker is emotional attachment to outcomes. When money decisions feel personal, losses feel devastating. This leads to emotional reactions rather than strategic adjustments. Detachment improves decision quality. Another pattern is over-identification with income. When income equals worth, fear increases. Fear distorts decisions. Stability requires separating identity from earnings. Worth must be internal. Another subtle pattern is resistance to patience. Many people intellectually understand compounding, but emotionally resist waiting. This resistance leads to abandoning strategies prematurely. Impatience kills momentum. Another blocker is lack of reflection. Without reviewing decisions, patterns repeat. Reflection updates the brain. Without it, learning stalls. Reflection rewires behavior. These mental patterns are not character flaws. They are trained responses. What is trained can be retrained. Retraining begins with awareness. You notice patterns without judgment. You see how the brain reacts automatically. You pause before obeying. Pause creates choice. Choice creates new behavior. New behavior creates new outcomes. This is how hidden patterns lose power. In the next part, you will learn how to actively rewire your brain for opportunity and growth and how to replace these limiting patterns with mental habits that support financial success naturally. This is where training becomes transformation. Once hidden mental patterns are exposed, the real work begins. Awareness alone is not enough. The brain does not change because you understand something. It changes because you practice something differently long enough for new neural pathways to replace old ones. This is what rewiring actually means. Rewiring is not motivation. It is conditioning. The brain is a prediction machine. It predicts what will happen based on past experience. If past experiences around money involved stress, fear, loss, or instability, the brain predicts danger when money decisions appear. To rewire the brain, you must give it new experiences that contradict those predictions. Experience updates belief. The first step in rewiring for opportunity, slowing down reaction time. Automatic reactions happen fast. Strategic responses require space. Creating a pause between stimulus and action allows the brain to exit survival mode and re-enter choice. Pause is the doorway to growth when an opportunity appears most. Untrained brains respond with hesitation or anxiety. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to prevent fear from deciding. You practice noticing the reaction without acting on it immediately. Not acting is also a decision. Another critical step is teaching the brain that uncertainty is survivable. Growth always includes unknowns. Instead of waiting for certainty, you take small, calculated actions that expose you to uncertainty without overwhelming the nervous system. Small exposure rewires. Tolerance each time you act without negative consequences. The brain updates its threat model. What once felt dangerous becomes neutral. What once felt neutral becomes familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. Rewiring also requires shifting attention toward opportunity rather than threat. Threat-focused brains scan for what could go wrong. Opportunity-focused brains scan for what could go right. This is not optimism. It is balance. Balance expands perception. You train this by deliberately asking different questions. Instead of what if I fail, you ask, what if this works? Instead of what could I lose, you ask, what could I gain? These questions activate different neural circuits. Questions shape focus. Another powerful technique is behavior first, thinking later. Waiting to feel confident before acting delays growth. Acting first creates evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Action precedes belief. This does not mean reckless action. It means thoughtful movement despite discomfort. Each action becomes a data point that updates the brain. Data rewires emotion. Rewiring also involves repetition. One successful experience does not change conditioning. Repetition creates permanence. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Consistency trains. Identity. Another key element is emotional regulation practice. When stress arises, you learn to regulate rather than react. Breathing, grounding, and slowing movement calm the nervous system. Calm allows learning to occur. Calm is required for rewiring. Rewiring also means replacing old habits with new defaults. You do not just stop avoiding risk. You practice evaluating risk. You do not just stop emotional spending. You practice intentional spending. Replacement beats resistance. Another critical component is environment. The brain is influenced by surroundings. Exposure to people who think strategically about money normalizes growth behavior. Environment speeds rewiring. Proximity accelerates change. Rewiring also includes language. The words you use internally shape neural pathways. Saying, I am learning replaces I am bad with money. Language repetition creates belief. Language programs identity. Another technique is future rehearsal. You mentally rehearse responding calmly to financial decisions, challenges, and opportunities. This prepares the brain to act differently when the moment arrives. Rehearsal reduces shock. Rewiring also requires tolerating discomfort without escape. Growth discomfort is not danger. Sitting with it teaches the brain that discomfort passes. Discomfort fades with exposure. Another important aspect is reward restructuring. The brain responds to reward. You reward yourself for behaviors, not outcomes. Showing up, planning, investing, learning. This reinforces growth behavior even before results appear. Behavioral reward builds momentum. Rewiring also involves detaching from perfection. Perfectionism creates paralysis. Progress requires imperfection. Allowing mistakes teaches the brain that failure is survivable. Survivability reduces fear. Another powerful shift is training long-term thinking. You practice thinking in months and years. You visualize compounding rather than immediate relief. This expands the time horizon. Expanded time reduces urgency. Rewiring also includes reviewing wins. The brain has a negativity bias. Reviewing progress counteracts this bias and reinforces. New identity. Review reinforces belief. Another essential practice is reflection after action. You review decisions without self-attack. You ask what worked, what did not, and what I learned. This integrates experience. Integration locks learning. Rewiring also requires patience. Neural change takes time. Expecting immediate emotional comfort leads to quitting. Trusting the process sustains effort. Trust sustains practice. Over time, opportunity becomes easier to see. Growth-oriented decisions feel less stressful. The brain stops overreacting to money because it's learned that you can handle it. Handling creates confidence. Eventually, the new patterns become automatic. You no longer force strategic thinking. You default to it. This is when growth accelerates. Automatic behavior creates stability. Rewiring your brain for opportunity is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming capable. Capable of choosing long-term benefit over short-term relief. This is when financial success stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like alignment. In the next part, you will learn how emotional discipline shapes money decisions and why. Regulating emotion is one of the most powerful financial skills you can develop. This is where rewiring meets real-world pressure. Every financial decision is an emotional decision first and a logical one second. This is uncomfortable for many people to admit because we like to believe we are rational when it comes to money. In reality, emotion quietly decides first and logic follows to justify the choice. Emotional discipline is the skill that reverses this order. Without emotional discipline, money controls you. With it, you control money. Emotional discipline does not mean suppressing feelings. Suppression creates pressure and eventually leads to impulsive behavior. Discipline means recognizing emotions without allowing them to dictate action. It is the ability to feel and still choose wisely. Choice is the center of discipline. The brain under emotional stress seeks relief. Relief can come through spending, avoiding difficult decisions, chasing quick wins, or abandoning long-term plans. These behaviors feel logical in the moment because they reduce discomfort. The cost shows up later. Short-term relief creates long-term instability. One of the first areas emotional discipline affects is spending. Many people spend to regulate mood. Stress, boredom, frustration, and insecurity all trigger spending, because spending creates a temporary sense of control or pleasure. This habit has nothing to do with budgeting and everything to do with emotional regulation. Money becomes medicine. Training emotional discipline begins with awareness. You notice the emotional state before the financial action. You ask, what am I feeling right now? And what am I trying to relieve? This pause interrupts automatic behavior. Interruption creates choice. Another major area is fear-based avoidance. Fear causes people to delay investing, learning, negotiating, or taking calculated risks. The mind frames avoidance as caution. In reality, it is emotional protection. Avoidance feels safe, but costs growth. Emotional discipline allows you to tolerate fear without obeying it. You do not rush to eliminate fear. You act alongside it. This teaches the brain that fear is not a stop signal. Fear becomes information, not authority. Another critical area is impatience. Impatience pushes people to abandon strategies too early. When results are slow, frustration builds. Emotional discipline allows you to stay consistent even when progress is not immediately visible. Consistency requires emotional maturity. Emotional discipline also improves decision timing. Instead of reacting immediately, you wait until emotion settles. Calm decisions are almost always better decisions. Delay improves accuracy. Another common emotional trap is overconfidence during success. When things go well, people take excessive risk, overspend, or abandon discipline. Emotional discipline keeps behavior stable, regardless of outcome. Stability preserves gains. Discipline also protects against panic during downturns. Without emotional control, people make drastic changes during temporary setbacks. With control, they adjust strategically. Strategy survives volatility. Another important area is negotiation. Emotional discomfort causes people to accept less than they deserve. Fear of rejection leads to underpricing. Emotional discipline allows you to stay grounded during negotiation and advocate for value calmly. Calm increases leverage. Emotional discipline also affects saving and investing. Market fluctuations trigger fear and excitement. Emotionally undisciplined minds buy high, sell low, and chase trends. Disciplined minds follow systems regardless of noise. Systems outperform emotion. Another critical aspect is self-talk. Emotional reactions are amplified by internal language. Harsh self-criticism after financial mistakes creates shame, which leads to avoidance. Discipline replaces self-attack with analysis. Analysis leads to improvement. Emotional discipline also includes accepting discomfort. Growth discomfort is not danger. It is adaptation. Allowing discomfort without escape trains resilience. Resilience strengthens capacity. Another key skill is separating money from self-worth. When income equals identity, emotional swings intensify. Discipline comes from intrinsic worth, independent of outcomes. Worth must be stable. Emotional discipline also improves focus. Emotional noise fragments attention. Calm attention increases productivity and income potential. Calm supports execution. Another important element is reducing emotional input. Media fear narratives, comparison culture, and financial drama increase emotional volatility. Disciplined minds curate inputs intentionally. Input affects output. Emotional discipline also requires recovery. Chronic stress weakens discipline. Sleep, movement, and rest are not optional. They support the nervous system that allows calm decisions. Biology supports psychology. Another powerful practice is rehearsing calm responses. Visualizing yourself responding calmly to financial stress prepares the brain for real situations. Preparation reduces reactivity. Emotional discipline also involves forgiveness. Mistakes happen. Carrying regret drains energy. Forgiveness restores focus. Release supports progress. Another area is boundaries with others. Emotional pressure from family, friends, or culture can influence money decisions. Discipline allows you to honor your values without guilt. Boundaries preserve alignment. Emotional discipline also improves long-term planning. Calm minds can think ahead. Emotional minds focus only on immediate relief. Planning requires stability. Another key insight is that discipline is built gradually. You do not become emotionally disciplined overnight. You practice noticing, pausing, and choosing repeatedly. Practice builds default behavior. Over time, emotional reactions lose intensity. Decisions feel clearer. Money becomes less charged emotionally. This is not detachment from life. It is mastery over impulse. Mastery creates freedom. When emotional discipline becomes identity, money decisions stop feeling heavy. You no longer dread them. You approach them with curiosity and clarity. This is when financial behavior becomes consistent. In the next part, you will learn how to train focus, patience, and long-term thinking, and why these skills are essential for sustained financial success. This is where emotional control turns into strategic execution. Financial success rarely comes from a single brilliant decision. It comes from hundreds of ordinary decisions made consistently over time. Focus, patience, and long-term thinking are the mental skills that allow those decisions to compound. Without them, even good strategies fail. With them, average strategies succeed. Consistency beats intensity. Most people struggle financially not because they lack ability, but because their attention is fragmented. They jump between ideas, react to noise, and abandon plans too early. Distraction feels productive, but prevents depth. Depth creates results. Attention determines outcome. Training focus begins with clarity. You cannot focus if you are unsure what matters. Many people chase multiple financial goals at once and make progress on none. Focus requires choosing a few high-impact priorities and ignoring the rest. Less creates more. Another barrier to focus is emotional distraction. Anxiety, impatience, and comparison constantly pull attention away from important work. Training focus means learning to notice emotional drift and gently return attention to task. Return is more important than perfection. Patience is the second pillar. The brain wants quick results. When results are slow, frustration rises. Frustration leads to quitting. Most wealth is lost not because strategies fail, but because patience runs out. Patience protects compounding. Training patience involves expanding time horizon. Instead of asking, "Is this working?" you ask, "Is this improving?" Small improvements accumulate. Progress is often invisible before it is obvious. Invisible progress is still progress. Long-term thinking changes how you evaluate decisions. You ask, how will this choice affect me in 5 years, not 5 days? This perspective reduces impulsive behavior. Perspective reduces urgency. Training long-term thinking also involves delayed gratification. You practice choosing future benefit over immediate comfort. This builds psychological tolerance for waiting. Waiting is a skill. Another key element is trusting systems rather than emotions. Emotions fluctuate daily. Systems create stability. Following a system even when motivation is low sustains progress. Systems outperform mood. Focus also requires environmental design. You reduce distractions. You structure time. You protect attention. Discipline becomes easier when environment supports it. Design beats willpower. Another important aspect is boredom tolerance. Many high-value activities are repetitive. Learning to stay engaged despite boredom prevents abandonment. Boredom is part of mastery. Patience also requires emotional regulation. When impatience arises, you do not act on it. You acknowledge it and continue. This teaches the brain that waiting is safe. Safety builds patience. Long-term thinkers also track leading indicators, not just outcomes. They monitor behavior, consistency, learning progress, and skill development. These indicators show progress before income changes. Indicators sustain motivation. Another key skill is resisting comparison. Comparison shortens time horizon and creates urgency. Focus on your own trajectory. Trajectory matters more than position. Training focus also involves single tasking. Multitasking reduces quality and increases stress. Single tasking increases efficiency. Depth multiplies value. Patience also means accepting slow seasons. Growth is not linear. Plateaus are normal. Understanding this prevents panic. Plateaus are part of progress. Long-term thinking also reduces emotional spending. When the future matters, present impulse weakens. You think before spending. Future orientation increases control. Another important practice is reviewing progress regularly. Reflection reinforces patience by showing how far you have come. Reflection restores perspective. Training focus, patience, and long-term thinking is not glamorous. It is quiet, disciplined, and repetitive. This is why few people do it and why it works. What is rare is valuable. Over time, these skills become automatic. You stop chasing quick wins. You stop reacting to noise. You trust your systems. Trust creates calm. This mental training transforms financial behavior. Decisions become steadier. Income grows more predictably. Stress decreases. Stability compounds wealth. In the next part, you will learn how to overcome fear, scarcity, and financial anxiety, and why calming the nervous system is essential for sustained financial success. This is where mental training meets emotional healing. Fear, scarcity, and financial anxiety are not signs of weakness. They are signs of an untrained nervous system reacting to uncertainty. Most people try to eliminate these feelings before taking action. That approach fails. These emotions are not eliminated by reassurance. They are retrained through experience, regulation, and repetition. You do not defeat fear by fighting it. You outgrow it by understanding it. Financial fear is rarely about money itself. It is about safety control and predictability. Money represents security. When money feels uncertain, the brain interprets it as a threat to survival. This activates stress responses that narrow thinking and increase urgency. Urgency is the voice of anxiety. Scarcity is a mental lens, not a financial fact. Two people can have the same resources and feel completely different levels of scarcity. Scarcity thinking tells the brain that there will never be enough time, money, or opportunity. This belief triggers hoarding avoidance and impulsive behavior. Scarcity creates tunnel vision. When the brain is in scarcity mode, it focuses on loss prevention rather than value creation. It avoids investment even when investment is logical. It prioritizes short-term relief over long-term stability. This keeps people trapped in cycles of stress. Breaking scarcity starts with awareness. The first step in overcoming fear and anxiety is recognizing that these emotions are signals, not commands. Fear says, "Pay attention." Anxiety says something feels uncertain. Neither tells you what to do. You choose the response. Choice restores agency. Regulating the nervous system is essential. A dysregulated nervous system cannot think long-term. Simple practices like slowing, breathing, grounding attention, and reducing stimulation calm the body enough for rational thought too. Return.com is a prerequisite for strategy. Another critical step is normalizing uncertainty. Financial success always involves uncertainty. Waiting for certainty is waiting forever. Training involves teaching the brain that uncertainty does not equal danger. Uncertainty is the cost of growth. Exposure is key. You gradually expose yourself to financial uncertainty in manageable ways. Investing small amounts, negotiating prices, learning new skills. Each successful exposure weakens fear. Exposure retrains response. Another powerful practice is separating worst case imagination from probability. Anxiety exaggerates unlikely outcomes. Writing down realistic scenarios restores balance. Clarity reduces fear. Scarcity also thrives on isolation. When people struggle financially, they withdraw. Connection reduces anxiety. Learning from others who have navigated uncertainty normalizes the experience. Connection expands perspective. Another important step is building financial buffers. Emergency savings, diversified income, and margin reduce nervous system activation. Preparation calms fear. Preparation buys peace. Fear also decreases when you focus on controllables. You cannot control markets, but you can control skills, habits, and decisions. Focusing on controllables restores power. Control reduces anxiety. Another critical shift is reframing mistakes. Mistakes are not proof of failure. They are training data. This reframe reduces fear of action. Action builds confidence. Scarcity also weakens when you practice gratitude without denial. You acknowledge what is working without ignoring what needs improvement. Balance stabilizes emotion. Balance prevents despair. Another key practice is reducing emotional input. Fear-driven media and comparison culture amplify anxiety. Limiting exposure protects mental state. Input shapes emotion. Overcoming financial anxiety also involves redefining enough. Endless chasing keeps anxiety alive. Knowing what enough looks like creates psychological safety. Enough creates stability. Fear diminishes as competence increases. Learning financial literacy, investing basics, and negotiation skills increases confidence. Knowledge combined with practice calms anxiety. Competence builds. Another important aspect is patience with emotional change. Fear patterns formed over years do not disappear overnight. Consistency retrains them gradually. Gradual change lasts. Scarcity thinking also fades when you shift from consumption to creation. Creating value builds internal security. Consumption seeks external reassurance. Creation builds confidence. Another powerful tool is journaling. Emotional reactions to money. Writing clarifies patterns and reduces intensity. Expression releases tension. Overcoming fear also requires self-compassion. Shaming yourself for fear increases it. Compassion creates safety for growth. Safety allows learning. As fear and scarcity diminish, financial decisions become clearer. You stop reacting and start responding. Anxiety loses control over behavior. Behavior shapes outcome. This does not mean fear disappears forever. It means fear no longer drives. You move forward despite discomfort with calm awareness. This is real confidence. In the next part, we'll learn how to build mental resilience in income and investing, and why resilience determines who stays in the game long enough to win. This is where emotional stability becomes durability. Mental resilience is the invisible force that determines who stays in the game long enough to succeed financially. Talent opens doors. Knowledge provides tools. Strategy creates direction. But resilience is what allows you to continue when progress is slow, confidence wavers, and outcomes are uncertain. Without resilience, even the best plans collapse under pressure. Resilience is not toughness. It is durability. In income growth and investing, volatility is unavoidable. Income fluctuates. Markets rise and fall. Strategies work and then stop working. Opportunities take longer than expected. These realities are not failures. They are the environment. Mental resilience is the ability to function effectively inside this environment without losing direction. Most people quit not because they fail, but because they get tired of feeling uncertain. Resilience begins with expectation management. Many people unconsciously expect financial growth to be smooth once they start doing the right things. When reality does not match this expectation, frustration builds. Frustration weakens motivation. Motivation fades, and behavior stops. Unrealistic expectations break resilience. Resilient people expect inconsistency. They expect slow periods. They expect emotional discomfort. This expectation prevents shock. When difficulty arrives, it feels normal rather than alarming. Normalizing difficulty reduces stress. Another critical aspect of resilience is emotional regulation during loss. Loss triggers fear, shame, and self-doubt. An untrained mind personalizes loss. A resilient mind contextualizes it. Loss becomes part of the process rather than proof of inadequacy. Context preserves confidence. In investing, resilience is especially important. Markets reward patience, but punish emotional reaction. Panic selling, excitement-driven buying, and constant strategy switching destroy returns. Resilience allows you to stick to systems despite emotional noise. Systems require emotional stability. Another key element is recovery speed. Everyone experiences setbacks. What separates resilient individuals is how quickly they recover mentally. They feel disappointment, but do not dwell. They reflect, adjust, and continue. Fast recovery sustains momentum. Mental resilience also includes identity separation. Your identity must not be tied to a single income source, investment, or outcome. When identity is fused with performance, every setback feels existential. Identity flexibility protects stability. Resilient people see themselves as learners, builders, and long-term thinkers. Outcomes inform identity rather than define it. Identity anchored in growth is resilient. Another critical factor is stress tolerance. Financial growth stretches stress capacity. Resilience involves gradually expanding your tolerance rather than avoiding stress. Each challenge slightly increases capacity. Capacity grows through exposure. Avoiding stress keeps capacity small. Facing manageable stress builds strength. This applies to negotiation, volatility, risk, and responsibility. Stress is training, not damage. Another important aspect is patience with compounding. Compounding works slowly at first. Early stages feel unrewarding. Many people quit during this phase. Resilient minds trust the math even when emotion doubts it. Trust sustains effort. Mental resilience also involves reframing boredom. Boredom is often a sign of consistency. Investing, saving, skill building, and system maintenance are not exciting daily. Resilience tolerates monotony. Monotony precedes mastery. Another element is emotional detachment from timing. Resilient people understand that timing is uncertain. They stop predicting exact outcomes and focus on positioning. Positioning beats prediction. Resilience also includes maintaining discipline during success. Success can weaken resilience by creating complacency. Resilient minds stay grounded. They maintain habits during upswings. Discipline protects gains. Another key component is adaptability. Resilience is not stubbornness. When conditions change, resilient people adjust strategy without abandoning values. Adaptation sustains relevance. Mental resilience also depends on physical regulation. Chronic stress, fatigue, and poor health weaken resilience. Sleep, movement, and recovery are foundational. The mind cannot be resilient if the body is depleted. Another important practice is reflection without rumination. Resilient people review outcomes calmly. They extract lessons and move forward. Rumination traps energy in the past. Learning moves energy forward. Resilience also grows through responsibility. Taking ownership of decisions, even when outcomes are unfavorable, restores agency. Blame weakens resilience. Ownership builds strength. Another aspect is emotional literacy. Naming emotions reduces their intensity. Resilient people can say, "I feel anxious," without becoming anxiety. Labeling creates distance. Resilience also includes long-term identity again. You see yourself as someone who plays long games. This identity absorbs short-term fluctuations. Long-game identity stabilizes effort. In income growth, resilience means tolerating periods of plateau. Plateaus are not stagnation. They are consolidation. Skills deepen, systems stabilize, and foundation strengthens. Consolidation precedes expansion. In investing, resilience means resisting emotional narratives. Media thrives on drama. Resilient minds rely on data principles and strategy. Drama weakens judgment. Another powerful component is selective attention. Resilient people choose what they focus on. They limit exposure to fear-driven stories and comparison. Attention protects mindset. Mental resilience also involves support systems. You do not need to struggle alone. Learning from others who understand long-term growth normalizes difficulty. Shared experience reduces isolation. Another key practice is revisiting purpose. Purpose sustains resilience. When effort feels meaningful, endurance increases. Meaning fuels persistence. Resilience also involves humility. You accept that you will not always be right. This openness prevents emotional collapse when wrong. Humility protects learning. Another aspect is tolerance for delayed feedback. Financial actions often have delayed results. Resilient people act without immediate validation. Delayed feedback requires trust. Mental resilience also improves decision quality under pressure. Calm minds make fewer drastic moves. Stability increases returns over time. Stability is a competitive advantage. Another important shift is viewing setbacks as training rather than interruption. Every difficulty strengthens mental muscle when integrated. Integration transforms adversity. Resilience also includes forgiveness of self. Carrying regret drains energy. Forgiveness restores forward motion. Release sustains momentum. Another aspect is simplicity. Overcomplicating strategies increases stress. Simple, consistent systems support resilience. Simplicity preserves clarity. Mental resilience also means maintaining perspective. One decision does not define a career. One loss does not define a future. Perspective reduces panic. Over time, resilience becomes automatic. You stop reacting intensely to volatility. You expect fluctuations. You trust yourself to adjust. Trust replaces fear. This is why resilient people outperform over decades. They do not win every moment. They stay long enough for winning moments to accumulate. Staying power creates wealth. In the next part, you will learn how to create a financially intelligent identity and why. Identity is the final layer that locks all this training into place permanently. This is where resilience becomes who you are, rather than something you practice. Every lasting financial outcome is driven by identity. Skills matter. Knowledge matters. Strategy matters. But identity is what determines whether any of those tools are used consistently over time. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall or rise to the level of who you believe you are. A financially intelligent identity is not about feeling rich. It is about thinking, acting, and deciding in ways that naturally produce stability, growth, and resilience. Many people learn financial concepts, but never internalize them. They know what to do, but do not do it consistently. This gap exists because behavior that conflicts with identity will always feel uncomfortable. The brain resists actions that threaten self-image even if those actions are beneficial. Identity sets the boundaries of behavior. Financially intelligent identity begins with how you see yourself in relation to money, not as someone who hopes to do better someday, but as someone who manages money intentionally, calmly, and strategically. This shift does not happen through affirmation alone. It happens through repeated alignment between values and behavior. Identity is built through evidence. Every time you make a calm decision under pressure, you reinforce a new identity. Every time you delay gratification, you confirm that you are someone who thinks long-term. Every time you choose learning over avoidance, you strengthen the belief that you are capable. Small actions reshape self-perception. 1. Of the most important elements of a financially intelligent identity is emotional neutrality. Money no longer defines your worth or your safety. It becomes a tool rather than a trigger. You stop using money to regulate emotions or measure self-value. Neutrality creates consistency. People without this identity often behave inconsistently. They save when anxious and overspend when relieved. They invest when excited and panic when uncertain. Financial intelligence stabilizes behavior across emotional states. Stability compounds results. Another defining trait is long-term orientation. You naturally think in years rather than weeks. You expect progress to be gradual. This expectation prevents frustration and impulsive decisions. Expectation shapes endurance. A. Financially intelligent identity also includes responsibility without self-attack. You take ownership of outcomes without collapsing into shame. Mistakes become data, not judgments. This mindset accelerates learning. Learning sustains growth. Another core aspect is value-based thinking. You see yourself as a value creator, not just an income earner. You focus on increasing usefulness, skills, and impact. Income becomes a reflection of value rather than effort. Value orientation increases leverage. This identity also includes disciplined patience. You trust systems over impulses. You stick to plans even when motivation fluctuates. Discipline becomes part of who you are rather than something you force. Discipline becomes default financial. Intelligence also includes boundaries. You say no to emotional spending, social pressure, and misaligned opportunities. You protect time, energy, and capital without guilt. Boundaries preserve progress. Another important trait is adaptability. You are not rigid. You update strategies when conditions change. Identity anchored in intelligence allows flexibility without losing direction. Flexibility. Prev and tease. Also, intelligent identity also includes emotional resilience. Market fluctuations, income variability, and unexpected expenses do not destabilize you. You respond calmly and adjust strategically. .com is competence. Another defining element is gratification as a value. You do not see waiting as deprivation. You see it as investment. This reframing changes daily choices. Investment thinking builds freedom. This identity also reshapes consumption. Spending becomes intentional rather than reactive. You spend in alignment with values, not emotions. Alignment reduces regret. Another key trait is confidence, without arrogance. You trust your ability to learn and adapt without needing certainty. Confidence comes from competence, not comparison. Competence grounds confidence. Financial intelligence also includes selective attention. You limit exposure to fear-driven narratives, hype, and comparison. You choose information deliberately. Input shapes mindset. Another important aspect is humility. You accept that you do not know everything. You stay open to feedback. Ego does not drive decisions. Humility protects learning. This identity also includes stewardship. You see money as something to manage responsibly, not chase obsessively. Stewardship creates long-term stability. Management outperforms pursuit. A financially intelligent identity also separates self-worth from net worth. You are valuable regardless of numbers. This separation prevents emotional volatility. Intrinsic worth stabilizes behavior. Another defining quality is consistency across seasons. Whether income is rising or falling, behavior remains aligned. This consistency is rare and powerful. Consistency creates trust with yourself. Financial intelligence also includes planning for volatility. You expect downturns and prepare for them. Preparation reduces fear and increases confidence. Preparation creates peace. Another aspect is contribution. You see money as a tool for choice, impact, and support, not just accumulation. Purpose sustains motivation over time. Purpose outlasts pressure. Identity also influences environment. As your identity shifts, you naturally choose different influences, conversations, and habits. Environment reinforces identity. Reinforcement accelerates change. Building a financially intelligent identity is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming aligned. Aligned thinking leads to aligned behavior. Aligned behavior produces aligned outcomes. Alignment creates momentum. Over time, this identity becomes automatic. You no longer debate basic financial decisions. You no longer react emotionally to fluctuations. You trust yourself. Trust is the ultimate asset. This is the point where financial success stops feeling effortful. You are no longer fighting your own patterns. Your brain works with you rather than against. Money stops being stressful. It becomes manageable, predictable, strategic. In the final part, you will learn how to live with financial confidence, calm, and control, and how this identity expresses itself in daily life, decisions, relationships, and long-term fulfillment. This is where everything integrates into a sustainable way of living. Financial confidence is not loud. It does not announce itself through luxury or comparison. It is quiet, steady, and deeply grounded. It shows up in how you think, decide, and live when no one is watching. Living with financial confidence, calm, and control is the final integration of everything you have trained your brain to do. This is not about having unlimited money. It is about having an unshakable relationship with money. Most people believe confidence comes after financial success. In reality, confidence comes from how you manage uncertainty, pressure, and choice long before success becomes visible. True financial confidence is internal. It exists regardless of account balance because it is rooted in self-trust, clarity, and emotional regulation. Confidence is not optimism. It is preparedness. Living with financial calm means money no longer dominates your emotional state. Wins do not inflate you. Losses do not collapse you. Fluctuations do not hijack your nervous system. You experience emotions, but you are not ruled by them. Calm is emotional sovereignty. This calm begins with acceptance. You accept that money will never be perfectly predictable. There will always be variables outside your control. Instead of fighting this reality, you work with it. Acceptance reduces resistance. Reduced resistance reduces stress. What you accept stops draining you. Financial calm also comes from clarity. You know your numbers. You know your priorities. you know your direction. Uncertainty decreases when clarity increases. Many people feel anxious about money simply because they avoid looking at it. Awareness replaces anxiety. Living with control does not mean controlling outcomes. It means controlling responses. You cannot control markets, economies, or timing perfectly. You can control preparation, discipline, and decision quality. Response is power. Financial control also means having systems. Systems remove emotion from decisions. Budgets, savings plans, investment rules, and review routines create structure. Structure protects you when emotions are high. Systems create stability. Another key aspect is decisiveness. Calm, confident people make decisions without endless rumination. They gather enough information, choose, and adjust if needed. Indecision drains energy and increases anxiety. Decision ends mental loops. Living with financial confidence also changes how you relate to work and income. You no longer see income as a verdict on your worth. You see it as feedback on value and positioning. This perspective reduces fear and improves strategy. Feedback guides improvement. Another important shift is emotional independence. You no longer seek validation through spending, earning, or status. You define success internally. This independence reduces pressure and comparison. Comparison disappears when direction is clear. Financial calm also improves relationships. Money conversations become clearer, less charged, and more honest. Boundaries are set calmly. Generosity becomes intentional rather than reactive. Clarity strengthens connection. Living with control also means planning for enough. You define what enough looks like for you. Without this definition, chasing never ends. Enough creates psychological safety. Safety enables peace. Financial confidence also shows up in restraint. You do not need to prove anything through purchases or risk-taking. You choose deliberately. Restraint preserves resources and dignity. Restraint is strength. Another defining quality is adaptability. Calm people adjust without panic. When income changes, they reassess rather than react. Flexibility prevents crisis thinking. Adaptation sustains momentum. Living with financial calm also means trusting your process. You do not constantly question every decision. You review regularly but do not obsess. This trust reduces mental noise. Trust quiets the mind. Financial control also includes saying no. You say no to misaligned opportunities, emotional spending, and external pressure. Each no reinforces self-trust. No protects. Yes. Another important element is time freedom. As control increases, urgency decreases. You stop rushing decisions. You allow ideas to mature. Time becomes an ally, not an enemy. Time rewards patience. Financial calm also affects health. Reduced stress improves sleep, focus, and energy. Money stops being a constant background threat. The nervous system settles. Calm supports well-being. Living with confidence also includes gratitude without complacency. You appreciate progress while continuing to grow. This balance prevents anxiety and stagnation. Balance sustains fulfillment. Another key aspect is long-term vision. You regularly reconnect with why you are building financial stability. Vision anchors decisions and gives meaning beyond numbers. Meaning fuels discipline. Financial confidence also improves leadership and influence. People trust those who remain steady under pressure. This trust creates opportunities, partnerships, and respect. Steadiness attracts opportunity. Living with control also means preparing for adversity. You plan for downturns. You expect challenges. Preparation removes fear of surprise. Prepared minds stay calm. Another important shift is forgiveness of the past. You release regret over mistakes. You use lessons without carrying shame. This frees energy for forward focus. Release restores momentum. Financial calm also reshapes ambition. Ambition becomes intentional rather than anxious. You pursue growth without desperation. Desperation fades when control is present. Living with financial confidence does not mean life becomes easy. It means challenges no longer feel overwhelming. You face them with clarity rather than fear. Clarity replaces panic. You stop reacting to money. You start directing it. You no longer chase security, you build it. You no longer fear uncertainty, you navigate it. This is the result of training your brain for financial success. Not through shortcuts, not through hype, but through awareness, discipline, resilience, and identity. Money becomes a tool, not a threat. Confidence becomes internal, not conditional. Calm becomes default, not forced. Control becomes natural, not rigid. This is what lasting financial success feels like. Not flashy, not frantic, but steady, grounded, and free. And once you experience this state, you never want to return to chaos. Because this is not just financial success. This is mental mastery applied to money, and it lasts.